Anunnaki Homeworld by Jason M. Breshears. Read by Kevin Stevens, also known as Grendel Dark. Archive 9. Accurately interpreting the Mayan long count and its relations to the Great Pyramid. We haven't dug deeply enough or studied things thoroughly enough to reach reliable conclusions about the distant past. So many of the facts commonly accepted today are only educated guesses. John Keel, Our Haunted Planet. There are in print over 1,000 books explaining how the Mayan long count ends in the year 2012 AD, and the subject fills tens of thousands of articles and has deluged the internet. We have been led to believe that some epic, transforming event will occur in this fateful year and will change the world and humanity. A new consciousness will emerge, the founding of some abstract cosmic evolution event. All fictions perpetrated by highly imaginative individuals who fell prey to the misinformation that the Mayan calendar ends in 2012 AD. This is an absolute mathematical impossibility. The year 2013 will follow, as will 2014, and so on. The Maya preserved an advanced calendrical system from remote antiquity that cannot rightly be called their own. They inherited it. The system has been proven now to come from the much earlier Olmeca civilization of the Yucatan that antedates the founding of the Mayan culture, which, admittedly, may in turn find their ancestors in the Olmeca. The discovery of a jade figurine with a calendar inscribed upon its stomach, indicating to scholars the date of 3113 BC, demonstrates that this unique calendrical system precedes the Maya and every other archaic known American culture after 1200 BC. Jean Reinhardt, in Science Digest, September 1967, wrote that it is a masterpiece of mathematical knowledge, and it was the Olmecs, not the Maya, who developed it. But this, too, is an overstatement, for the Olmeca, too, were merely the inheritors of this truly remarkable system. The origin of the Mayan long count calendar, according to scholars, was in the year we know as 3113 BC, or 782 Annus Mundi. They are absolutely correct. This dating system began exactly 13 years before 3100 BC. The date assigned by historians as the start date for the ancient Brahmic calendar and that of King Narmer, Menes, of the beginning of Egyptian history, who unified the people into a united kingdom. Narmer is in fact the biblical patriarch prophet King Enoch, described with the epithet Nar, Ner being the Sumerian title for Anunnaki, the kingship, and Mer, the Egyptian designation for a pyramid. Zecharia Sitchin, in his work, Journey to the Mythical Past, clearly demonstrates that upon the Narmer palette, also known as the Victory Tablet of King Menes, is depicted a clearly obvious pyramid with smooth sides. Enoch was the greatest Sethite king before the flood, even ruling over the Anunnaki. His reign lasted for 300 years, and, as revealed in my book, The Lost Scriptures of Giza, Enoch vanished, leaving behind divine instructions that the Sethites followed, which resulted in the construction of the Great Pyramid Complex. It took 90 years to complete and was finished in the year 1080 Annus Mundi, or 2815 BC. Enoch personally oversaw the building of Stonehenge 1 and 2, and in 3100 BC, when the ancient Indian, Vedic, and Egyptian chronologies began, Enoch was enjoying his 108th year of kingship. See Chronicon. The importance of this year is exemplified in the Egyptian Old Chronicle that cites 113 regnal descents in a 36,525-year period from Pharaoh Scorpion to 290 BC, when Manetho studied this text from older sources. The scorpion is an arachnid, the symbol for the Anunnaki before the flood, as exhibited in this author's work, Descent of the Seven Kings. This impossible sum of years, 36,525, is to be decoded by the lunar months of the year, 13, to discover the actual sum of years actually being referred to in the encoded text. The 36,525 years divided by 13 is 2,810 years, which from 290 BC spans back to our year of 3100 BC, the start of Egyptian dynastic history. The calendrical import of this encoded system serves to allude to the year of 365.25 days, as known in the time of Manetho in 290 BC, a year unknown to the ancient Maya. As seen in this work, and detailed very specifically in this author's other books, the year was 360 days evenly matched with the zodiacal stellar year, an annual orbit of the Earth geometrically perfect. The introduction of the 365.25 day year was due to cataclysm in 713 BC, when the dark satellite nearly collided into Earth. Enoch erected Stonehenge to commemorate not only the original heavens under the 360-day system, but also to show that in the future, this system would collapse into a different type of annual calendar. The precise science of Enoch will later be demonstrated in this book. For now, let it be understood that the calendrical system the Olmec and Maya preserved was ultimately from Enoch, and it was specifically designed to start 13 years before the other ancient dating systems that had their genesis in 3100 BC. Enoch was a prophet in the dawn of human civilization whose ministry was designed for the last days. In the 160th year of the life of Enoch, 3113 BC, 3100 BC was the 108th year of his reign, he designed Stonehenge II, adding the mysterious blue stone ring and inner horseshoe, stones symbolic of the Anunnaki. These 79 enigmatic blue stones added to the Stonehenge I site, which originally consisted of exactly 81 sarsen stones, added up to make Stonehenge II a complex concentric ring site of 160 stones, reflecting the year of the life of its principal architect. The Mayan calendar's chief function was not to record the passage of time, but to count down to a time known as 13.0.0.0.0 at the conclusion of 13 Baktuns, 144,000 days each, when time would collapse. The end of the age would be known by a fundamental alteration in the passage of time itself. So, we see that Enoch's ministry for the last days is reflected in the conceptual purpose of the Mayan long count. Because modern scholarship ignores solid archaeological and textual evidence that Earth's orbit was dynamically altered in 713 BC, when all calendrical systems from China to the ancient Americas adopted a new, vague year of 365.25 days by adding these evil days of 5.25 to the end of their annual counts. The modern interpretation of the Mayan long count system is totally corrupted beyond anything the system meant to convey. The dark satellite almost collided into the planet in 713 BC, and the effects of this on our world are fully chronicled by such prolific researchers as Emanuel Velikovsky and Zecharia Sitchin. As a result, scholars have taken the start of the Mayan long count at 3113 BC and calculated the entire system based on the modern year of 365.25 days, which abbreviates the 13 Baktuns of 1,872,000 days, equaling 5,200 years, on the 360-day system, to a period of 5,125 years, a number absolutely unknown to the Maya. This interpretation is arbitrary, for it even breaks up the Mayan mathematics incorporated into the system. A baktun is exactly 144,000 days, or 400 tuns, and a tun was equal to 360 days. The number that links all the early American cultures was 52, and 5,200 actual years of 360 days each is the entire longevity of the Mayan long count, or 1,872,000 days. The system is totally incompatible with the scholarly accepted end date at 2012 AD, so blindly followed by the literati. The tune was measured out as a Mayan year of 18 months, consisting of 20 days each, for 360 days. 5 unlucky days were added later. The 260-day period was particularly sacred to them as well, a unit measured as 52 times 5. Zecharia Sitchin noted that the three methods of calculating the long count of the Maya all relate to the number 360. Despite this revelation, he, along with the entire world, still calculates the system using the modern vague year of 365.25 days. Thus far, this author has committed the error of all those before him in explaining calendars and concepts from antiquity. But to redeem and separate himself from those who dare not demonstrate their fallacies, a detailed specific chronology is now exhibited on the Mayan calendar. Mayan long count calendar. 3113 BC, 782 AM. Mayan long count begins, counting down 1,872,000 days, or 144,000 times 13 days. This will conclude with 13.0.0.0.0, when time will collapse. 2713 BC, 1182 AM. First baktun complete, 144,000 days, being 400 years on 360-day system. 2313 BC, 1582 AM. Second baktun complete, 288,000 days, being 800 years on 360-day system. 1913 BC, 1982 AM. Third baktun complete, 432,000 days, being 1,200 years on 360-day system. 1513 BC, 2382 AM. Fourth baktun complete, 576,000 days, being 1,600 years on 360-day system. 1113 BC, 2782 AM. Fifth baktun complete, 720,000 days, being 2,000 years on 360-day system. 713 BC, 3182 AM. Sixth baktun complete, 864,000 days, being 2,400 years of 360 days each. This is 2,760 years, or 552 times 5, to next time orbit is altered in 2046 AD. These 864,000 days refers to 864, making this year a new foundation for time. The lost moon of Niburu, called the Dark Satellite, nearly collides into Earth and pushes our planet about 0.01% away further from the Sun, increasing its elliptical orbit and adding 5.25 days to the 360-day year. The planet stops rotating and then initiates a 10-degree retrograde motion briefly, before resuming its normal rotation. Review the 713 BC event in the archive detailing the Dark Satellite. This concludes exactly 2,400 years of the Mayan system, leaving 1,008,000 days remaining in the long count, 7 baktuns. 319 BC, 3576 AM. Seventh baktun complete, 1,008,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. The dark satellite passes through inner system unseen from Earth, 144,000 days after 713 BC. 76 AD, 3970 AM. 8th Backtune complete, 1,152,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. 144,000 days after 319 BC. The dark satellite appears, and it is witnessed in the sky as a javelin, which Titus recorded and Pliny wrote was an omen of doom. This is also the beginning of the Saka calendar of India, which countdowns 476 years to the invasions of the Huns into India in 552 AD, 4446 AM. The Trojans fell to the Mycenaeans and Greeks in 1229 BC, see Chronicon, which began a 476-year countdown to the founding of Rome in 753 BC by the descendants of Troy, the Romans. In the year 476 AD, the Romans were defeated by the Germans, initiating the famous fall of Rome. As 120 is the foundation number, not to be confused with the foundation of time number 864, we see how intriguing it is that 76 AD was the year 120 of the Roman calendar, known as the Julian. The fall of Rome itself in 476 AD merely began a 1300-year period to the 1776 AD founding of the United States of America, when the 13 colonies rebelled against England, a people of Anglo-Saxon heritage largely descended from early European German tribes. 470 AD, 4364 AM, 9th Backtune complete, 1,296,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. 144,000 days after 76 AD. Dark satellite fallen out of sync with Maya system. 864 AD, 4758 AM. 10th Backtune complete, 1,440,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. 144,000 days after 4070 AD. It is beyond coincidence that the 10th Backtune is completed. Mystic association to number 10 is completion. In the year 864 Anno Domini. In this year, the Irish annals record both a lunar and solar eclipse. The solar eclipse no doubt being the transiting occult of the sun by a comet. This year marks the start of Earth's final 3 cursed Earth periods of 414 years each, or 1,242 years to Armageddon, and the year 6000 Annus Mundi, 2106 AD. See When the Sun Darkens for a full review of the cursed Earth system. This also marks the start of the final 3 Mayan backtunes until the collapse of time. 1258 AD, 5152 AM. 11th Backtune complete, 1,584,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. 144,000 days after 864 AD. This year of 5152 Annus Mundi mirrors the geometrical angle of the Great Pyramid's 4 facing slopes, measured at 51.52 degrees. The monument built at the instruction of Enoch and covered with 144,000 white limestone facing blocks of expert precision. In this year, the Mongol armies under the Khan invaded Iraq, Babylonia, and crushed the Abbasids. 1652 AD, 5546 AM. 12th Backtune complete, 1,728,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. 144,000 days after 1258 AD. almost as if a divine warning was provided to the descendants of Rome and Europe, America. In this year of 1652 AD, a bright meteorite crashed between Siena and Rome in May. This begins a 144,000-day countdown to 2046 AD. 2046 AD, 5940 AM, 13th Backtune complete, 1,872,000 days, being 395.4 years of 365.25 days each. 144,000 days after 1652 AD. The Mayan calendar is complete, but will time itself collapse? The answer to this penetrating question will be answered in the affirmative by the truly incredible information contained in the next sections. The Mayan long count was divinely inspired to both conceal and then later convey a divine act that will transpire in the last days, an event that will bring into perfect clarity an accurate interpretation of the enigmatic book of Revelation. As the long count of the Maya and earlier Olmeca was preserved in an American system, we will also see how its end in 2046 AD specifically affects the United States of America, 2,760, 552 times 5 years after 713 BC. The casing blocks that adorn the Great Pyramid covered a surface area of 22 acres. These hard, white limestone blocks protected the softer limestone blocks within the structure constructed of 203 levels of stones, course upon course, to the height of a 41-story building. These casing blocks were massive, about 100 inches thick, several tons each, and of a complex shape, smoothly finished and formally held in a very thin layer of cement of great strength and unknown formula. What baffled archaeologists the most when these casing blocks were discovered in 1837 AD and in subsequent studies was the fact that the builders of the monument employed a 0.010-inch precision on the casing block planes, utterly perfect, when a 0.25-inch plane would have been sufficient tolerance, as is used today in modern brickwork. The dimensions of the surviving casing blocks reveal that the four faces of the structure had a total of 144,000 protective white limestone blocks. In David Davidson's epic work entitled The Great Pyramid, Its Divine Message, a colossal book published in 1924 AD, we find that the architect of this monument encoded a message into its construction, interpreted through a study of its four foundational cornerstones. Buried in this geometrical prophecy was the exact date of the longitude of perihelion of an unspecified object that astronomically related to the Earth. This future date, 2045 AD, marked the Great Pyramid's chief calendrical prophecy encoded within the dimensions of the structure's four cornerstones, the architect's metaphorical four corners of the world. His book is 568 pages with hundreds of charts and illustrations, but nowhere in his writings does he allude to what this object is that approaches our sun in 2045 AD, or how it will affect our planet. Davidson's amazing discovery holds that this astronomical chronology began in the year 4040 BC, with Davidson citing Dr. Crommelin of the Greenwich Observatory. Why the variance of 1 year from 2046 AD is explained by this begin date of 4040 BC, which is itself 1 year off the true year. As this author has shown in Descent of the Seven Kings, he has demonstrated in several charts and timelines how Earth began a new orbit in the year 4039 BC. The evidence of this is overwhelming. This date was exactly 270 years after the pre-Adamic world was completely destroyed. See When the Sun Darkens, in 4309 BC. What makes this 4039 BC new orbital chronology of Earth so fascinating is that it places the end of the Great Pyramid's orbital chronology at 2046 AD, which is itself verified by the fact that this astronomical chronology of our planet begins and ends in a 144-year period. In this author's prior work, When the Sun Darkens, it is shown how the cursed Earth calendar of 414-year periods began in 4309 BC, when the pre-Adamic world was ruined, and ended in the year 1902 AD, 5796 AM. The Earth was lost in space in a chaotic state for 270 years before its orbit stabilized in 4039 BC. Great Pyramid's astronomical chronology begin date. The 144th year of this renovation of Earth from a stabilized orbit was year 1 of the Annus Mundi calendar, an original Hebraic system, 3895 BC. An earthly paradise was enjoyed for 144 years until the beginning of cursed time in 3895 BC, a subject also explained in Descent of the Seven Kings. The amazing synchronicity of this system is that the end of the cursed Earth chronology was 1902 AD, which began a 144-year countdown to 2046 AD. As 1902 AD began the Giza course calendar, a timeline for the last days recorded in levels of stone of the Great Pyramid to the year 2106 AD. The descent of the chief cornerstone from heaven in the year 6000 Annus Mundi, 2046 AD, is represented by the unusually thick 144th course of masonry in the monument. The 4 cornerstones of the pyramid that define the astronomical chronology, which indeed ends in 2046 AD, themselves provide a foundation to the edifice, the 4 equidistant stones forming a square. The antiquarian and one-of-a-kind researcher William Corliss, in his work Ancient Structures, wrote that the Great Pyramid is a scale model of the Earth's northern hemisphere. In this model, the pyramid's height represents the polar radius, its perimeter the Earth's equator. The northern hemisphere will be most affected by the events of 2046 AD. None of these authors knew anything of Niburu or the Anunnaki, nor of the comets and asteroids destined to end their orbital cycles by colliding into the northern hemisphere. The monument seems to acknowledge the fact that throughout the history of the world, during this astronomical chronology, all of the world's greatest nations and empires were seated on the equator or above it in the northern hemisphere. Most of Egypt is north of the equator. From China to Central America, and even some of South America, all the regions between are all on and north of the equator. The structure's foundation begins the Giza course calendar, a system counting down to the return of the chief cornerstone to vanquish the Anunnaki in 2106 AD, 6000 AM, a system fully chronicled year by year and even through the future in this author's Chronicon. This base foundation, indicated by the year 1902 AD, which was the subject of When the Sun Darkens, was itself exactly 4,140 years after the Great Flood, when the planet was virtually destroyed in 2239 BC, 1656 AM. This was a period of 10 cursed Earth epochs. And with this fact, we discover yet another vertical geometrical message hidden within the masonry of the Great Pyramid. As the flood was caused by the impact of a comet from the Niburu, see When the Sun Darkens, the next major impact of a comet that will destroy a significant portion of our world will be in 2046 AD, the 144th level of bricks in the structure, which happens to be 4,140 pyramid inches above the baseline of the monument, 1902 AD. Perhaps one would like to criticize the use of pyramid inches, and, considering that we have not in this study explored this fascinating mode of measurement, this is certainly permissible. But for those seeking the ancient evidence of a lost corpus of prophetic knowledge buried within the geometry of the Great Pyramid concerning this epic year of 2046 AD, read Chronotecture, Lost Science of Prophetic Engineering. As the Mayan system was founded upon a framework of periods enduring 144,000 days, which were changed to conceal a future date, 2046 AD, when time would be significantly altered. So too was the Great Pyramid covered in 144,000 casing blocks that were eventually stripped off the building after an earthquake in 1356 AD. This allowed researchers to explore the monument's deeper geometrical mysteries. The apocryphal writings claim that in the last days, a special ministry of 144,000 witnesses will spread the word, and this is also mentioned in the Revelation. These are the 144,000 people in the end time, according to the Maya, who meet the Son, opening the doors of salvation. This is the meaning behind the 144,000 casing stones on the structure, which is further demonstrated in Psalm 144. Our sons may be as plants, trees of life, grown up in their youth, that our daughters may be as cornerstones, polished after the manner of a palace. This passage is in Psalm 144, verse 12, which is the square root of 144.